back to the vast anonymous Comic Vault. I am Captain Logan, and today Eric and I are going to tackle the first volume, which is, I guess, the first third of Brian Bendis' Daredevil, The Man Without Fear. This is kind of considered by a lot of people to be one of, if not the quintessential Daredevil run. I think you have people that like this even more than they like Miller.
I mean, this is my favorite run of in superhero comics.
Yeah, which is crazy that it's taken us this long to finally talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I just want to mention I read this a couple weeks ago, so I'm going to let Eric run point on this and hope a bunch of stuff comes back to me because I've been working on a million other things since
Oh,
this.
good, because we're not talking about the beginning at all.
And well, that's
I
okay.
didn't reread it.
We don't have to. It's no big deal. It's not super important. I like it. I like Eric. I like the stylized kind of
it's good, but I just don't care because it's not
nature
for
of
the
it.
rest of it.
Yeah, it almost doesn't matter that Bendis wrote it.
He just writes his fill-in issues.
Okay.
He's not even a writer when he that's not the beginning of his run.
Right.
He wrote some fill-in issues.
Okay, but it's not that they put it in here.
No, it is, and it's always collected with his stuff. I just don't care because it's not important. Although that kid becomes that kid is the guy in End of Days.
Yeah.
Like he made it be important.
Yeah, he turned it into a bookend weirdly.
Yeah.
So we will want to bring it back up when we get to End of Days.
I'll reread it before we do End of Days.
Because when we finish this, I would like to do End of Days with this fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
But we'll probably only bring it up to say, okay, so you remember when there was that story we didn't talk about?
Yeah.
It kind of informs End of Days.
Yeah.
Mostly important just because Eric is narrating both of those stories, and it's kind of a character piece.
And the kid is adopted by
Eric.
Eric, and he's the guy that takes the mantle at the end.
Right, yeah.
Spoilers.
So plot yeah. So no reason to talk about this anymore. We know what happens at the very end of Bendis' run, sort of. That's what, like a decade and a half after his run?
Yeah, but it's weird because he wrote it shortly after he left. It took a day.
Why did it take him that long to publish it?
Something to do with the artists.
Okay.
And there was a bunch of like format changes. Like originally it was going to be
Is
like,
that Malik or is that somebody else?
No, that's I want to say there's a couple of artists, but it's primarily I think Sienkiewicz, where Sienkiewicz at least
I've read it, I just don't remember.
Inks all of it, but he draws some of it. I want to say there's multiple artists, and that's part of why it took so long to come out. But it's been a while since I looked at that book.
So if you're not familiar with this, or it's been a long time, the big significant thing with this, of course, is this is where Daredevil's identity is outed, and that sticks forevermore. I mean, we're in a place right now where people don't know it, but we've contrived a way for that to happen. It's still in the canon. We effectively had a kind of a one more day thing to make that happen.
It lasted until Secret Wars. Like from this in like.
And I still say it's weird that
2003.
Secret Wars didn't use the natural, easy way for Secret Wars to wipe that out, because they didn't. We had to do a whole thing with Purple Man to make that happen. It's really strange.
Yeah, the second arc is called Out, and I still think if you were ever going to adapt this as like a movie, if this was the sequel to Daredevil, it's a great title. Daredevil Out.
Yeah,
I think Out's a really provocative title.
No,
I don't know why.
That.
It's just a three-letter word, but I really like it.
Yeah, not outed, not coming out, just out. Yeah, that's cool.
So the first arc in this is called Underboss, and Matt Murdock cameos in the first arc. It's mostly about this guy named Sammy Silk, who might be the most Bendis-y character Bendis has ever written. He's mob bosses.
If you go back to Sam and Twitch, you will see that character all over.
I bet. He's also kind of all three of the Enforcers.
That's a good point.
Which I guess we'll talk about later.
That's right. We're gonna do the second arc of Ultimate Spider-Man a little bit later, or does that even count as an arc? The second is it?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was like labeled that way or not, because Bendis tends not to do that, so I couldn't remember.
No.
We read it in the Ultimate Collection, and so
Ultimate Spider-Man is distinctly 6-issue arcs mostly. Although that's like 5 and like an epilogue thing. But
we're gonna do another Vault segment later than the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes. So Sammy Silk is a mob boss's son who from Chicago, I believe, and he's gotten into some kind of trouble, and so his dad asks Kingpin to let him come and work in New York, and he's like, I'm gonna take Hell's Kitchen. Everyone laughs still, and then slowly he starts finding. And this is all. I'm telling this kind of really quickly, linearly. This isn't told linearly.
It's not.
So he finds out that the Kingpin knows Matt Murdock's identity, and he's playing some kind of like 8-dimensional chess with Matt Murdock, which is
because we rarely see Kingpin in the present day.
Yeah,
in this because he gets taken out real quick.
Yeah. Well, because it opens with him getting murdered.
Right.
Which it's a scene I love. Where he's like, how are you on Roman history? He's like, what? And he's like, that's a shame because he really will appreciate this. And they all get around.
Well, doesn't he go to the hospital and he's not quite dead?
Yes.
I mean, he's not murdered, but everybody thinks.
But
he's
he
dead.
doesn't talk. He's right. Incapacitated.
I just think it's important to mention that this is not where Kingpin actually dies. He's like in a. Is he in a coma or is he just kind of laid out?
I think he's just in like critical condition.
Yeah.
Because they say like the flight will kill him.
Because I had to keep checking and making sure that I wasn't wrong about it because everybody else that's not there, like Matt Murdock, talks about it like they think he's dead.
Yeah,
but he's not actually dead.
So this guy finds out that Kingpin's playing this long game with Matt Murdock, which is essentially just dealing with the fact that ever since Born Again, well, we can't have Kingpin just constantly attacking Matt Murdock, so he's always playing a long game. There's a master plan at work. And so Bendis...
It's a little tongue-in-cheek about it.
Yeah, so Bendis dealt with that. And so Sammy Silk comes in, and he's like... And we find out that all of Kingpin's guys both know that Matt Murdock is Daredevil and that Kingpin knows. And so he just, like, rallies everybody.
Yeah, word's gotten around.
Yeah.
And so it's like... Isn't it like a... Again, it's been a couple weeks. Isn't it like a sort of a mole situation where it's like you weren't supposed to tell people, but everybody knows somehow?
Well, it's not a mole. It's just like office gossip.
Okay.
Word's just gotten around to everybody that everybody just knows. They know that Matt Murdock's Daredevil, and they know.
So not even that Kingpin's told anyone. It's just obvious by what he's been doing.
I think he tells. I think his son knows, and his son might be the one that told.
See, that's why I thought it was a mole situation. I thought it was like.
It seems like it was just like he said something to somebody, and somebody said something to somebody, and somebody said something to somebody.
But he wasn't trying to hurt his dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Sammy Silk takes advantage of the situation, and he rallies everybody to take down the Kingpin. And there's a really interesting thing in here about Kingpin not being a made man, because Kingpin obviously doesn't come up through the ranks of the Mafia traditionally.
Yeah.
He just kind of shows up and takes power. So he doesn't abide by the Mafia traditions and things like that.
Yeah.
And so then Vanessa, Kingpin's wife, finds out that this guy and her son colluded to take down Kingpin. And she murders everyone that was involved. And Sammy Silk runs to the feds and says, just gives them everything about what happened. They're like, okay, well, so you confessed to this crime and this crime and this crime. Like, why are we helping? Like, why would we help you? And he's like, well, I can give you Daredevil. And so they give him Daredevil, and the feds decide not to do anything with it, except for one guy who's got a gambling problem.
Yeah, I love that conversation where they're trying to piece it together and see if it actually works, see if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes on for a number of pages. And you'd think a thing like that would be boring, and it's not.
It's a whole issue.
Yeah,
it's a whole issue.
Is it even a whole issue?
It's a whole issue. From like the captain getting woken up and coming in complaining about. Yeah,
I think part of the reason it's so interesting and entertaining is because Bendis weirdly has such a great handle on the continuity, and he brings in everything.
Yep.
Like, he gets how everything, and like, he makes connections that weren't there before but work. And so, like, part of, I think, the success of this run is fitting together the pieces and making the history of Daredevil fit together. Which is why he becomes so quintessential, and why he's as important as Miller at this point.
And what I love is so there's an FBI guy who has a gambling problem or something. He tells a newspaper, and the newspaper outs Matt Murdock. And when they sit down to like when Matt and Foggy sit down to be like, okay, who could possibly have done this? Foggy names off like a couple of people, and he's like, and every woman you've ever made eyes at, because you constantly tell them your secret identity.
And he's like, okay, I get it. That's true. Oh, and then there's that whole thing about discrediting the newspaper.
The newspaper thing is fantastic because there's a whole thing. So we have all this build up where like Matt Murdock doesn't know what he's going to do. Is he going to stop being Daredevil? Is he just going to come out publicly? Like, and there's a lot of build up, and he's Bendis is in his head, and it's great how distracted Matt Murdock is because he can hear and smell, and like he'll have a train of thought, and then he'll be thinking of a song because he hears it 3 blocks down, and things like that.
Yeah.
And he's not centered, and he's trying to center himself. It doesn't work, and like he's like, all right, I've come to a conclusion. I know what I'm gonna do, and he comes out and he's like, newspapers lie. I'm gonna sue them. He holds a press conference, and he's like, I'm gonna sue them for everything that they're worth.
And up until Mark Waid, he's still just completely denying it and able to live in public even though everybody knows he's Daredevil because there was just never enough proof.
Yep.
And I love that, and it's hilarious.
Well, there's also a thing... You'll get to it.
Okay.
There's a thing later.
That makes that make more sense?
Kind of.
Okay.
It's hard...
This is the problem with reviewing part of an arc that you already know how it ends.
Well, it's not just how this ends. I mean, it is how this ends, but it's also part of the Brubaker stuff. There's a point where Danny Rand's running around as Daredevil.
Yeah.
And there's plausible deniability.
Okay.
And that's that. Also, why Danny Rand should be the Iron Fist, or should be the Daredevil in Civil War, even though he's not. But because that's happening at the same time. So then Matt gets to go and meet with
and we talked about that when we reviewed Civil War.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Matt goes to meet...
I'm sorry, I can't remember. Was that actually Matt Murdock, or was that even some other random third guy in the costume?
No, it's supposed to be Matt Murdock. I forget...
because there's a whole thing about him being blind in it.
There's a whole thing about him being blind, and he's got red hair, and Danny's got blonde hair.
Yeah, that's right.
But so Matt goes and talks to the... Like, one of my favorite scenes in this, I'm so glad it's in this, because I wasn't sure if it was in this part of it, is when he goes to talk to the guy who owns the newspaper, and they're gonna settle. And, Matt using, like, his hearing of the heart or whatever, he gets him to do exactly, like, as far as he would go, money-wise settlement, and he was like, you're not gonna say that this broke you, like, there will be no layoffs the next 2 years. Like, you will not use this as an excuse to fire people, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And everything's fine. And then Matt just, like, super plays up the being blind thing. Like, he just, tapping as he leaves.
I forgot
and
about
that guy
and then
flips.
He freaks out and he goes, you know what, never mind. I'm not doing this deal.
Because Matt finds out who the FBI guy is.
And isn't that scene, like, perfectly indicative of everything that's wrong with Matt Murdock and the mistakes he makes?
Yes.
Like, he tears himself down.
Yeah. Well, and so he's very self-destructive.
Like, we get a lot of scenes like that, because there's another scene with Elektra that kind of also does this in costume, or at least gives you a sense of how he's bad with women and stuff, and how he keeps making the same mistake over and over again. We should talk about that one, because it's great. But rarely do you get it with, out of costume with Matt himself, where you just get this encapsulating scene, where it's like, in 3 or 4 pages, this is Matt Murdock.
Mm-hmm. No, it's great because
that's the problem with being the man without fear. He's too cocky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's an amazing scene where he's on the lamppost above all of the reporters, and he just doesn't have his mask on, and like he's in his head, like threatening them to look up, like I'm right here. I'm just, and then he's like, what the hell am I doing? And he runs away.
It's like his powers and almost his lack of sight make him accidentally live above the world.
Mm-hmm. But so. Matt finds out the FBI agent that sold him out, and he goes to him, and so that guy won't back up the newspaper. And the newspaper knows that. The newspaper owner knows that. He says, my lawyers have said that we're going to lose. Like we can't win this case now because we don't have our source. But I'm still taking you to court because I don't like you.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really good.
And his problems could be solved.
Yep.
You wouldn't have the rest of the run.
Yep. He was just a little bit more
it would be a lot shorter.
Yep.
You wouldn't have people... I mean... Yeah, I guess you would probably still have some people that maybe believe that he is Daredevil because of how much evidence there is, but if the newspaper prints a retraction, he's all but okay.
Yeah.
What do you figure?
Well, and I forget what because there's a whole discussion about that. Like, they won't print a retraction, they'll print, like, an apology, and, like, there's a discussion of where it's going to be in the newspaper.
Yeah.
That's part of the negotiation process. But, yeah, no, he should be all but okay.
Yeah, because it was, like, bottom of page 9 or something.
Yeah,
I forget what it was.
Yeah, if he gets out of that room, everything would have been fine. At least, as far as the outing. And then you could have just kept going on telling Daredevil stories. It was just a moment in Matt Murdock's life. But it's not, because Matt Murdock can't not rub salt in the wound.
Yeah.
And most of this is done by Malieve, who I think is just a wonderful artist.
I would almost go as far as to say that's probably the best, in my mind, Daredevil ever looks. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like quintessential Daredevil.
And Miller at this point for me is a close second, which is just a matter of taste.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also aping him. Maybe aping's not the right word. It's homaging it. It's influenced by it. Whatever. It's the same kind of brand of gritty as Miller, but it's
for me
a little bit more detailed than
it's
that.
Mazzucchelli who does Born Again.
Well, I love that too.
That's kind of probably my second. I like Lark, who's the guy that follows. So Brubaker and Lark follow. I like him.
Well,
I don't love
who draws
him.
Kevin Smith's, because that's really good too.
That's Quesada.
I like that too.
Yeah, it's a little bit more comic booky, cartoony.
Yeah, but with some grit.
No. Yeah, it works. It's not exactly what I think of. Like,
Well, same
is
thing
what I
with
think.
the back of with the last story in this book, which I think is actually my favorite part of it, which I was surprised by, because I got into it and I was like, okay, this is going to not matter in a similar way as the first part did, and then I loved it, and the art switch was too jarring, especially because of how much of part of the same story it actually ends up being, but I adjusted to it in about 10 pages and I really liked it.
I want to say Malieve's one of those guys who just can't be a monthly artist.
He takes too long.
Yeah, he just takes too long. And I don't like his newer art as much as I like this stuff. He's one of those artists...
I'm sure I've seen him lately, but I don't immediately remember in what.
I'm not sure. He has done something. Oh, he did Infamous Iron Man.
Yeah, I didn't love that.
Yeah.
It's less detailed than this, and I don't like how he's colored in that as well.
He's one of those artists where, like, I can't put my finger on... Bagley's like this, too. I can't put my finger on what I don't like about Bagley anymore, but, like, he's not the same.
He's not the same. I agree with you with Bagley.
But I can't put my finger on it. I can't say what's different.
But you can tell it's not the same.
And John Castane's like that, too. There's something missing. But no, this is kind of definitively... It's sketchy, but it's not. Like, I mean, it is sketchy, but, like, it doesn't feel apt. It's not like some of that stuff in, like, No Man's Land.
It's not sloppy at all.
Yeah, no, it feels...
It feels intentional.
Yeah, it feels like he's in control of everything.
Yeah, there you go.
I've never seen an artist with this style that does it this well, where even people like Sienkiewicz, who have a similar kind of style, it feels...
He did that Moon Knight with Bendis.
Yes.
In 2011.
Yes,
that stuff was great.
Yeah, it was really good. But I think one of the things that Bendis does really interestingly is...
Did you know he drew a little bit of that No Man's Land stuff?
No.
Some of it might be the stuff we don't like.
I wonder if he does that worst issue.
He does the Bob Gale issue that I don't like. I mean, I like Bob Gale in it. I mean, I like Bob Gale's writing, but
is it the Black Mass
he
issue?
writes No Man's Land #1, and I forget which exact issue that is, but I remember not liking the art in that.
Okay, because there's one issue in No Man's Land that I think is definitively the worst drawn comic I've ever seen.
It would be hilarious if that was it. Because that would be right before this.
It's got Black Mask.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? We're like got you.
Oh no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. But one of the things I think that's interesting about what Bendis does in this is how he positions all of the people in Matt's life. I love how he uses Black Widow. Where, like, Matt's always around Foggy, and Foggy's telling him he needs to stop, or at least stop for a while, like, you're kind of doing this to yourself, and, like, it's a cycle of violence, like, and then Black Widow shows up, and she's like, well, the answer to your problems is you need to get away from all this for a little bit. You need to run on the rooftops, you need to do the superhero thing, and get this out of your system. And Elektra shows up, because Black Widow asked her to, but she's on Foggy's side, more so. I think it's interesting how he positions different solutions to the problem in the different characters.
Yeah, and I think most of the time I'm also kind of on Foggy's side, more than I'm on Black Widow's side. But I think he makes a good argument for both. It's just that at first when she shows up, she seems almost reckless about it to me.
No, I think she is completely reckless about it. And the Elektra thing is uncalled for and out of line.
Yeah. But I guess what I mean is, it feels like Foggy's the voice of reason, and maybe supposed to be kind of the stand-in for the audience, where like we're saying, no, you idiot, stop making the same bad choices, and that's what he's saying. But then at the same time, he's also close enough to it that it's hard for him to be objective and to have like a calm mindset about it. And so it's maybe also easy sometimes to say, well, I don't know if Foggy's got the right motivations, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, because Foggy's whole large point is the cycle of violence thing. Is this happens to you because you go out at night and you punch people, and then sometimes those people kill people that you care about, and that's kind of on you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think is great is that he's still mourning over the loss of Karen Page that happens in Guardian Devil.
Yep.
And I think it's entirely possible that had Karen Page not died there, he would have been better here. Where
he's just off.
He's still mourning, and then this happens.
Yeah.
And that's a thing with Daredevil. Is we just keep piling things on him until he breaks. I think he's done really well.
He reaches his lowest point 115 times.
Yeah.
Because that's Daredevil. I mean, but you could also make an argument for that in saying, well, cycle of violence then gets you there. If it's a cycle, then he keeps doing that.
Yeah. And then the final story arc in this book is a court case. It's a legal case for White Tiger.
I would make the argument. Yeah, it is White Tiger. I would make the argument, and I remembered that because when I was a kid, I made up a character named White Tigress and thought I was awesome for coming up with that, and then found out that there was a character named White Tiger, and I was like, oh, well, it's not that original.
And there are girl White Tigers.
Are there?
Yeah.
But I would go as far as to say I think that's some of the best courtroom drama I've read in a comic book.
No, I would agree. It's great. It's only 3 issues, but it's so tense, and it feels so long, but in a good way. Where just the deliberations and
now Tom King just did one in a Batman arc that's also really good, but it's more like a 12 Angry Men thing before it's actually courtroom drama. It's more the jury, their deliberations. But that stuff's
one of
really
the
smart.
things,
and should be another thing where I guess this is my review of this book. Should be boring, isn't?
Yeah. I love what a jerk the prosecuting attorney is. Not just in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Because that's his job. He's mean to Matt Murdock personally and is making jabs about Daredevil.
He's going after him.
No, it's really good.
But is it because he doesn't like Matt Murdock, or is it just because he thinks it helps him win his case? Because I think
he's just trying to unnerve him.
I don't get a great handle on him, and I assume it's just that he's trying to unnerve him.
Yeah.
I don't know how dishonorable that guy actually is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He seems like he's do anything for the case kind of a person.
But you could also make the argument that is often the definition of a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's how much do we need to know about that guy really?
Yeah. I think it's really nice that this trade ends here because it's a major turning point. So Matt takes a case for a superhero, and he's convinced to do this by Luke Cage and Iron Fist, solely to be this is exactly what you need. Well, one, this guy needs a really good lawyer, and you're a really good lawyer, and I think Luke is in the wrong in that scene.
I thought so too.
I think he's emotionally compromised.
Yeah.
And he's trying to convince it because he really.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
He doesn't mean to, but he doesn't really care what's happening in Matt's life. He just knows he's a really good lawyer and wants him to help.
Yeah, he's a little manipulative. Yeah. On accident. I mean, his heart's sort of in the right place, but he doesn't realize the way in which it's not. Yeah.
And so they convince him to take this case and kind of spin it like this is going to be good. You're going to represent a superhero, and it's this is a good thing for you. But
PR or something somehow.
Yeah. But it all goes south.
Yep.
And Matt has this great thing where he's like I am very aware that this is exactly what could happen to me. I also love when White Tiger starts freaking out.
Part of the reason I like that so much is because of the parallel with him and with White Tiger and Daredevil, and how he doesn't feel tacked on or forced in. I get the sense that this happens with minor superheroes all the time.
Yeah.
The only reason it doesn't happen with major superheroes is because their name is in the title, and we have to have status quo work. But the idea behind it seems to be if you're a superhero and you're outed, your life's done. That's it. This has to happen with people a lot.
And there's this one moment that I think is just so good where it's subtle character assassination when he brings up the guy's wife, and he talks about how where he gets White Tiger to talk about how he chose to stop being White Tiger because they made a decision together, and that's what you do when you're married. You're a team, and he's like, so was it a joint? Was a joint decision to come back out? And he was like, well, no.
Yeah.
And just like there's a lot of little things like that where like you can believe a jury is like, well, this guy's kind of a jerk, and that that
doesn't mean that he killed that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the situation was he wandered. It was the first night he put his costume back on. It had been years since he'd been White Tiger, right? And he puts his costume back on, and he's got an amulet that gives him superpowers. And there's a whole thing about the amulet and what it does, and people being confused about the powers. And all of that.
Maybe it gives him psychic powers. Well, there's no evidence.
There's no evidence that he can move. They're like, well, no, he doesn't need to use his hands. He can just move it around. That's not what the amulet does. What are you talking about? That seems like this is maybe a stretch, but that reminded me a little bit of court cases in the 90s about video game things and computer things where you just make stuff up because you assume that the jury or even the judge doesn't know anything about technology, so you just make stuff up. It's just like that. That was hilarious. But anyway, so the idea is he goes in to, what was it, like an automotive place or something?
No, it's like a pawn shop.
Okay, he goes into this.
Because that one guy talked about stealing video games.
That's right.
He's like, I Grand Theft Auto 3. I got an Xbox at home.
It's like $5 now. It's unfortunate.
Yep.
I have, you try to have historical, what am I trying to say? Perspective. But then you'll go back to a movie where somebody steals a VCR and you're like, that's worth like $12 now.
This whole thing in Ultimate Spider-Man at one point where they're stealing TiVos.
Yeah. That's great.
And trying to explain what a TiVo does.
But yeah, I was just setting up the context for it, where like he walks in and this person's dead already, and the cops show up and they think he did it.
Which is weird because he's holding a TV. I guess it looks like he's stealing it. I always assumed that they thought they hit him with it, but he shot with a gun. Anyways,
well, and that's weird because they must assume that he's part of a group that did it, or do they think? Because the thing is, there's obviously things that have been stolen, though.
Yeah.
Weren't things stolen and they made off with them?
Yeah.
I don't think that comes up in the court case.
Yeah.
Shouldn't somebody be like, okay, but. So he was running with a crew then, right? Like, they talk about it like he was working alone.
Well,
but if there's things missing...
Part of the thing about the case is, on paper, Matt shouldn't be able to lose. They have no evidence.
Right.
But that's not how the court works. That's not how the court system works.
And it's not just the court system, but also, because of the Daredevil thing, public opinion is against them.
Yeah. And most importantly, when they lose, right before White Tiger starts flipping out, I think it's Foggy, it might be Matt. One of them says to him, "We will win in appeals."
Yeah,
because they will. Because there is no evidence.
There's no case.
Yeah. And like, but I love how he just snaps. And he's just like, cause he's like, you said it was gonna be okay. I didn't do anything.
I want more of that. I would take a whole Daredevil run that was just court case, Daredevil beats up a guy, court case, Daredevil beats up a guy.
And then the thing with the kid at the end, where there's the kid sitting in the aisles and he's crying because he was part of the crew. But that
I forgot about that.
But that the people that
Isn't that the kid that was stealing the video games?
Yes. And the people that were actually responsible, because he was just pulled along. Like he was like kind of run with the wrong crowd kind of a thing. Yeah. They're all dead of OD. They all OD'd. They're not even alive.
Nobody to prosecute.
Yeah, nobody to prosecute. No, it's really good.
Well, and doesn't this volume, and this is the other reason that this is a really nice place for this to end off on, kind of book in with court cases, because isn't there that thing at the beginning? Yeah. He's doing a court case, and there's a woman and the judge, and I think it's the same judge, and she's like, we won't have those theatrics from last time.
There's a woman in the courtroom that I'm convinced is intentionally put in the Daredevil movie, because so much of that is just like, I'm not actually going to do anything with it, I'm just putting comic book things. But this woman is on the jury.
I think you're right. Yeah, sure.
She's not important. She doesn't come back. Like, I'm pretty sure that exact old lady in that outfit is in the Daredevil movie.
We're about out of time. There's a million more things we could talk about with this, but I just wanted to mention a couple of quick things. First of all, I think one of the big differences between Bendis then and Bendis now, because this, I don't know if decompress is the right word. He takes his time. We always say that with Bendis. He takes his time in this. This is probably the sharpest I've ever read him. And people say it all the time. I've now read it. I've now read a third of it. this is the sharpest that I've ever read Bendis. It feels like he's not meandering. It feels like it really does take this long to tell the story the way he wants to tell it. The big difference between Bendis then and Bendis now is room on the page. Bendis cannot have pages without words on them now. And this Bendis lets Malieve do a lot of the heavy lifting. There's a lot of, especially in the middle. It's funny because it's like once we get into Daredevil's head, that's when we start doing a lot of action with nothing with no dialogue on the page. And I'm going to talk about this when I do the rewind for season 1 of the TV show. But I'm always fascinated by really good visual storytelling with Daredevil because he doesn't see. Where like it's all about the visuals, but he doesn't see. This is a really interesting dichotomy.
Well, yeah, there's
so much of that in this.
This has the Enough Said issue, which is there was a month initiative at Marvel that was called Enough Said, where all of their books that month came out without any dialogue.
That's so interesting because it doesn't feel jarring here at all.
No,
it's
the issue with Bullseye.
That issue shouldn't have words in it,
and there are no words. I think there's some writing, which is how a lot of people got around it, but
that looks entirely intentional.
Yep,
that's really cool. But that was a big thing I wanted to bring up. And that Elektra scene
because
I love.
It is so slow paced or so deliberately
paced. Yeah.
In a way that Bendis doesn't feel now. It feels like this is just how he writes. Like this is just how I've always written.
But I mean, I was engrossed. All the way through. But that was a big thing I wanted to mention.
No, and it's really impressive that his first arc on the book barely features the main character. It's about him, but it barely features him. It's just this new guy that comes in, and you still care.
Yeah. It seemed smart to have him in the background then. It seems like we don't really get... And also, if you read this with the Uric story before that, you get a long time before Matt Murdock is front and center. And that's because I would make the argument that's because the story hasn't really started for Daredevil himself yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's showing you how
his break in status quo is what happens with that guy in Kingpin and getting in outing him.
Yeah. But there's so many...
Well, I guess right before that...
It's not a simple way for him to get outed.
He's not fully outed until until there's a price on his head, right?
Well, no, the price on the head is just Sammy Silk making a big show of Kingpin that they're not gonna because everyone knows you don't put a price on Matt Murdock's head,
right?
So
and
they specifically go out and do that. But that's not him being outed. No one knows yet.
That's what I'm saying. That's before that happens.
Yeah.
But I think we're already with him at that point.
But he's still like, I don't think he gets a whole issue to himself.
Okay.
Like we're still mostly doing the mob politics, and then he's running around being like, who put a hit out on the blind lawyer?
That's a big deal for a minute, where it's like there's a hit on him, and it's on Matt and not Daredevil, and
which isn't that weird. He's a lawyer.
Sure, but I would make the argument that the stakes are immediately higher, and the big potential stake is. He could get outed by just that happening. Like, we're already thinking this could be the time that Matt loses his identity, right?
And Boomerang shows up in here, he's a loser.
Yep.
Like always.
Forgot about that, too. Anyway, what else?
Like Captain Boomerang.
What else do you want to make sure and mention? Because this is your favorite run in comics. We're going to do the other two.
I don't have a lot to say, just because there's still 2 whole volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, like, largely, like, set up.
Yeah. But it's brilliant setup.
No, it's great. It's great. But it is largely set up for what he's going to do.
And we'll have a lot more to say when we get to the last one. When we have all this together, and he's got to be tight-lipped because I don't know what happens.
Yeah.
So.
It's one of the best endings of anyone in comics.
And then I can't wait to get to End of Days because a lot of people don't like that story, and I loved it.
But
I didn't have this.
I have issues with End of Days, but I like it.
Yeah, people don't like it. Or some people I've talked to.
There's a payoff thing at the end that's really dumb, or I don't fully understand. But we'll talk about it when we eventually review it.
Yeah, and there's some questions about how he handles just like costume life and stuff. But anyway, well, folks, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it. Eric and I are going to move on now with the omnibus to another comic vault. We're going to do a whopping 3 comic vault segments this week, so strap in for that. Next up, we're going to do more Bendis, and we're going to tackle the second story arc for Ultimate Spider-Man. So if you're watching this in the playlist, just keep it rolling, and otherwise we'll see you again next time. Check in with us here in just a few seconds for another comic vault. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
See you in a bit.